Of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise. Apologies to those of you who were waiting for this episode to start, for the live stream to start. YouTube was being a little bit glitchy with me, so let us see how this episode goes, because we have got a fair bit that we want to cover. Fingers crossed. First comment goes to Rich. Hello to you, Rich. Okay, now get the housekeeping stuff out of the way first. Thank you very much for tuning in. Whether you're watching live or you're watching the recording, please feel free to ask a comment, to ask a question, leave a comment. I usually get round to them in before too long. All rise, the Honourable Darius Shalaby preside. What, in judgment? Thank you very much. And please consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already done so. If you do subscribe, you may also want to think about clicking on the little notification icon so that you actually get notifications of my videos. Audrey saying there's another live going on. Yeah, I think this is the one you need to be watching. This is maybe what was happening with my YouTube. But anyway, this is the one that we need to do. And do please consider supporting my work on Ko-fi. You will find the information on that in the video description below. Now, I must start by apologizing for doing a little bit of false advertising, because even though the description of this video, or the title of this video, says that we're going to be talking about or looking at the new Elixir version of Dior's Sauvage, I don't actually intend to smell it here, because frankly I think life is too short, and I would like to spend a bit more time on the new version of Miss Dior and also the new vanilla Diorama, but I have smelt the Elixir version of Sauvage, affectionately known as Sausage by some people, and I would the reason why I wanted to at least give it a brief mention in a video, save those forehead wrinkles, says Zeta, yeah, is because quite a few people have actually written and said, please can you do that one? And you can see this is, I've got Elixir and it's great, you should try it on skin, says Louise. I did try it on skin, and this was my experience of wearing the Elixir. I did think to myself that to start with, it felt like very possibly the best version of Sauvage that we have been given so far. Not that that would be a difficult feat to accomplish, and I think what made it seem better at the start was that they appear to have paid a little bit more attention to the lavender. The lavender just felt as though it was a little bit more complex, a little bit more natural smelling. Yura saying Mr. Persolaise will turn into Gordon Ramsay with those forehead reactions to woody ambers. Yeah. Greetings from Doha, says Gin Tonique. But as it progressed, if progressed is the right word, as it moved on and on, I did think, oh my god, look, somebody's actually contributing to the channel asking for a review of Sauvage. What are you meant to do in a situation like this as a long-suffering perfume critic? Otis F96 saying, very excited to hear your take on Sauvage Elixir. Dare I ask, is it the very least heading in a slightly better direction than the original? Is it at the very least, sorry. Yes, and I think it is probably the best of the Sauvages. But then, does that mean that the people who actually loved the original... Thank you very much for that, by the way, Otis. Very, very generous. Thank you. Does that mean that the people who liked the original Sauvage are not going to like this one because it is markedly different? Or is it just Dior's way of trying to cover as many bases as possible, thinking, okay, so we've got the people who like those all-out woody ambers, now we need to go for a slightly different crowd. But as it developed, I did the Madame Persolaise test as well, and I sort of wafted it under her nose, and she immediately did this kind of, get that away from me, this is fly spray. So I would say, same as with all of the other Sauvages, that we don't need it. Personally, I would say, please stop buying it. And also, please stop buying Bleu de Chanel so that the brands can move on and give us two new masculine pillars. I think it's high time that Chanel gave us a completely new masculine, actually, because isn't Bleu, the original Bleu, from 2010? So I think we're due one. Goodness knows what that will be. I wonder what direction they'll go in. I wonder if Christine Nagel at Hermès has sort of set set a trend by taking things in a sort of fresher, more herbal direction. Maybe that's where I'll go. But the thing that maybe this will only tickle me and everybody else watching, or tickle only me, I should say. Place the word in the correct place. Best of a bad bunch, says Angela. Maybe nobody else will be as tickled by this as I was, but in this massive book, okay, that accompanied the sample of Elixir, Sauvage Elixir, there's one. I turned to one page, and even now I just find this hilarious. Maybe nobody else will. I'll just hold it up, okay? What reaction do you get when you see this? I know. I never thought I'd see a a page like this, okay, in a press release from any brand, whether it's Dior or anybody else. And there's Arthur Scargill going, "Dear God, looks like." Thank you. Somebody, you're saying looks like fan fiction. ZF saying it's like the Ronaldo statue. This is disturbing, says Gintonic. Okay, so I'm glad you're responding the same way that I did, because Rich Mitch just going, Jesus, it looks so goofy, says Post Sidal Sisterhood. Mon Dieu, says Oh, and Herb is going straight for it, saying, I want them to kiss. Well, look, just picture that. There's more, but nothing as good as that. I mean, the bromance continues, but these are photographs, and so they don't have quite the same effect. I mean, that didn't make me laugh just as much. That actually made me think, were they really in the room together? Sorry, this is really bad. I wasn't expecting the comments to go quite so. Audrey saying it reminds me of when you go abroad and you have street artists paint your picture. Thea says desperation. Did Dashi also make the drawings, says Gonzalo. This is the funniest thing I've seen on this channel, said CF. Thanks for the birthday present. So should we just do it one more time, and then we need to move on to the serious business of the day. So this is what we think of Sauvage Elixir. Here endeth the sauvageness. The TV advert is also very try-hard. Maybe some drugs were involved, says Gintonic. Okay, what I would like to spend a fair bit of time talking about today, in a genuinely serious way. Oh, Renaud, you said it. Don't you dare retract that comment now. In a very serious way, I would like to talk about this, which is the latest version of Miss Dior, which sorry, Jeremy, I've just seen your comment. So, okay, compose yourself, Persolaise. Which I guess makes this the 738th version of Miss Dior that we've had from the brand. This is the 739th. Sorry, I missed that one month version, the limited edition flanker of a flanker's a long distant cousin that they released in 2008. Seriously though, if you followed the brand in any shape or form, you will know that this is one of just a very, very long line of Miss Dior releases, and to the extent where I genuinely do not know where we are with Miss Dior anymore. I don't even know what Miss Dior is supposed to be, and I'm not saying that facetiously. I genuinely don't know. Woozy says the sales assistant at the local store says everyone who has smelt the new EDP hates what they've done to it, the sales assistants included. Well, you're saying it, not me. Miss Dior, in the beginning, you know, as the first Dior perfume, started as a green chypre with a sort of leathery hint. And I think for a long while it stayed the same with the sort of inevitable tweaks. But then things started happening about, maybe about 20 years ago or 15 years ago. But at least the developments were easier to track, because we had Miss Dior Chérie, which I think was a Christine Nagel flanker, which kind of did that sort of popcorn strawberry caramel thing, which for what it was pretty good. Are they doing a Dior Homme 2020 with this one? Yes, I think, in a word. But at some stage, the thing that was called Miss Dior Chérie then became called Miss Dior. The thing that we had known as Miss Dior became Miss Dior Original. Lots of flankers, you know, we had the Blooming Bouquet, we had Rose and Roses, and so I now genuinely don't know what is actually supposed to be what. And the closest you can come to the original is appropriately enough. Um, I've just seen your comments here. The what Dior sell as the extrait, which we actually reviewed on this channel a few months ago, which I think is beautiful. This bottle, by the way, here is just for the fact that I've got the opportunity to show it. This is a vintage EDT that I picked up a while ago. The top notes are a bit off in this one, but it's still pretty good. At one of the two launches for this new Miss Dior EDP that I attended, one was online and one was face-to-face, shock horror, actually seeing other people. That was an interesting launch because it also tied in with the launch of the new Justine Picardie book about Christian Dior's sister, Catherine. Anyway, put that to one side for the moment. At the first launch that I attended, the online one, I just asked the question. I said, how do you, as a brand, deal with the fact, or why do you decide to adopt this policy of taking something with the same name and the same packaging, but actually making it a completely different juice? And do you not think that as a brand you're running a huge risk of really, really annoying huge swathes of your customers who might go into a shop and say, I'd like Miss Dior EDP, please. And then they go home and they spray it and they think, what is this thing I bought? It doesn't smell anything like the last one that I bought. Now, I had to ask the question because I had to ask the question, because that's who I am. And if they invite me to these things, they know I'm going to be the guy who asks those questions. And I got, I suppose, the answer that I was expecting, but I still wanted them to have to say it, and I wanted me to ask the question. What did they say, says Herbs? Well, I'll tell you what they said. They basically said that in the same way that couture changes from a year to year, and you don't expect to wear the same dress year after year, Miss Dior also has to evolve and change with the times. And I think that is the question that I would like to present to you right now, my lovely and erudite and knowledgeable and articulate viewers and followers, whether you are watching live or whether you're watching the recording. You don't get let off by watching the recording, because I really thought about this and I thought, okay, as consumers, are we right to, like, dumping your wife, for your first wife, for a younger version, says Herb. Now that's the comeback that I should have thought of at the launch. That's a good one. That's a masterful hand wave they gave you there, Persolaise. Yes, do you think so? But no. Let us take the comment at face value and let's really try to think about it, because I thought, okay, am I as a consumer, have I got the right to insist that they don't change anything? We live in an age of predictability, homogeneity. I think that's why McDonald's and KFCs are so popular across the world. Tourists will fly halfway across the country on holiday, and where do they go to eat? Burger King. And you think, what? You're in Japan. Did you fly all the way to Japan to eat at Burger King or KFC? But I think it's because people want to know exactly what they're getting, and they don't want to take risks. But maybe we haven't got the right to expect that, and maybe a brand should have the right, without even announcing it to anybody particularly, that they've changed the contents of the bottle but retained the name. I think that smacks of being desperately unfair. And then I thought to myself, couldn't they say, this is Miss Dior 2019, and we've come up with another one, so this is Miss Dior 2021, and actually label that on the bottle? But that, I think, would never happen, for logistical reasons, for marketing reasons. I just don't think they would ever do that. And can you imagine the nightmare headache that sales assistants would have, the shops would have? So I can't see that happening. I do want to get to your comments, because I genuinely want to know what you think. And then you've kind of got the flip side of the coin, Guerlain, who take the same juice and give it a different name and say, I suppose they're not even pretending that it's a new perfume, but they're saying, hey, this is a perfume called such and such. Yeah, we know that last year it was called this, now it's called that. And they've done that with their new exclusives. So the L'Art et la Matière or Art et Matière collection, um, again, a lot of you will be aware, is in new bottles. But I have been informed, and I don't think the brand particularly make a secret of this, that Arsène Lupin Le Voyou is in that collection under a different name. That something that was called Dimanche à la Campagne or something like that is in that range under a different name. Somebody just mentioned Mahora. That had a couple of names at least. Guet-apens, which was called what? Attrape-cœur, at least 2 or 3 names. So they go that way. And again, do we have the right to complain? Do we have the right to, do we have the right to pen an angry email to Guerlain and Dior say, no, you mustn't do this? And I don't know if the answer to that is quite so simple. Now, I'll spray this and then I'll look at your comments because I really would like to know what you think. Now this perfume, actually, weirdly enough, there is one thing that is very unusual about this perfume, because it's certainly not often with a mainstream release that you would hear me saying, wait for the dry down. But with this one, I am going to say, wait for the dry down. The opening is pretty much as sweet, generic, floral as you can get. I mean, God, when I think of, sort of before and after, I mean, it's not even pretending to be the same thing, and which is why you can't sort of criticize it for not being that, because it is even making the slightest attempt to be a green leathery chypre. But most surprisingly, most unexpectedly, its dry down is better than its start. So let's leave that there and let's look at some comments, because I said that I want to know what you think, and I want to know what you think. You've left lots and lots of comments. So where can we start? Frederick says, so they evaded the question. Well, they were only ever going to answer it in that way. Leah says, why not keep the original masterpiece and have well done flankers like number 5 Au Première? Because I guess they want that on the name. Maybe they could turn the old ones into flankers or call them something else. I don't know. Rich Mitch says, yeah, I heard this too. They justify changing everything as progress, but the fragrances are getting worse, according to our tastes. But maybe they know the demographic they're going for, and maybe this is actually going to be a huge success for them. I don't know. That would take me by surprise, though, if it were as enduring a success, because it's just not very distinctive, whereas the original Miss Dior was. Mateusz says, what a pile of bleep. Woozy says, I swear if the trend is constant official reformulations, I might just leave this hobby for the next 5 years. No, don't do that, because there's always going to be something good for you to try. Absolutely there will be. Yes, but will they change Sauvage, says Yura. Henke says, I don't care which age we live in, I love Chopin, which is a good comment to make. Angela says, it's not the same, and clothes can't be judged in the same way, in my opinion. Okay, so maybe they were wrong to draw the comparison with haute couture. Good point. ZF says, it's an interesting question. If Keen's Steakhouse say they're changing their mutton chop recipe annually, they'd be out of business. Well, Coca-Cola have had difficulties in the past when they've had to tweak their formula, haven't they? Jean Tonique says, a classic is a classic, and classics have their fans. Why not leave it the way it was originally created? I wonder what Dior's response to that would be if they were being really, really honest and transparent. I think what they would probably say is, there aren't enough fans, and we can't keep making that perfume for fans. We need more customers. We need more money to be made out of it. That's not the route that Chanel went down, evidently. So they tried to make, as somebody has already said, they tried to make Au Première, they tried to make L'Eau, or they did make, I should say, and they're still retaining that number 5 mystique. But yeah, it's a decision, isn't it? Herb says, I think it's your responsibility as a consumer to support houses who don't bait and switch you. Yura says, Guerlain gets some flack for reformulation, but I think they did a great job of retaining some of the classics. I agree. What else have we got? There is a certain level of consistency customers expect, as well as the expectation for newness. I think the fragrance industry is a bit unique with how much they can blur the lines between new ideas and old. a good point. I mean, for instance, with wines, you know exactly what vintage you're getting. Um, Time to Musk Up says, I picked up Le Labo Cuir 28 yesterday. I love it. Okay, fair enough. So I thought that was going to be on topic, but it's not. More Guerlain examples. Sandra says, yes, we do have the right to expect the sameness, I suppose, because we spend the money. So does that give us the right? We could not spend the money. We could stop spending the money. I don't know. ZF says, this has been going on in the video game industry for decades now as well. As long as customers are buying, they have nothing to lose by rehashing the same stuff over and over. Now, there's an analogy, a connection I wasn't expecting. Natasha says, it just sounds like corporate marketing departments with too many people, maybe too much staff turnover, and not having a clear strategy. Arthur says, we have the right to express our opinion and the houses have the right to ignore them. Very true. Gavin says, Dior perfumes now aren't aimed at perfumistas. They are to be bought for the misses by men after coming out of the pub on Christmas Eve. A generic juice, a celeb endorsement, and card shop packaging. Not a great deal to disagree with there, really. I feel like Dior's actual perfumer is an algorithm, says Rich Mitch. If it always changes, it's no longer an iconic fragrance, says Sue. And the brand would say, but you can still buy Miss Dior Original. Somebody else here saying, Befta saying Chanel isn't owned by LVMH, though. Woozy says, I think the only time Guerlain had bad reformulations was when Sylvain Delacourte was the main perfumer, but let's not get into that rumour. And Eric says, with reference to video games, they also make changes or will remove access to digital copies suddenly. Interesting. I did not think that we would get a connection between video games and perfume. So I don't think it's as black and white as us just, stamping our fists and saying, you mustn't ever change it. I don't think it's as simple as that. And this is already improving, most unexpectedly, because that real juvenile crass sweetness fades away, and what you're left with actually is a very, very gentle, tender rosiness. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that it reinvents the floral wheel, but it's certainly not as trashy and ditzy as you think it's going to be at the opening. But that's more than enough on that one, and there will be a blotter update at some point too. This is the interesting Dior release out of the three. Of course, unfortunately, it's also the most expensive one, but there we are. That's how these things often go. This is the new exclusive, the new addition to the Collection Privée, which, yes, apparently is still called Collection Privée. This is Vanilla Diorama, but even that is confusing because, of course, back in 1948, we had an actual perfume composed by none other than Edmond Rudnitzer called Diorama, and unless I'm mistaken, it was only the second perfume from the brand, right, after Miss Dior. Could it have been the third? I can't remember, but it was definitely, one of the very first ones. And so this is Vanilla Diorama. But another word renaming situation, says Eric. But this... Rich Mitch says this stuff is so poor. Do you think so? Have you tried it? I was taken with this. They still have Diorama in their collection that includes Durissimo and Duressence, says Woozy. I wonder what state that Diorama is in now. On holiday a few weeks ago, I managed to pick up, in actually pretty good condition, small bottles, but not tiny, like 10 ml bottles of Duressence and... why has my mind gone blank? Tell me some of the other Dior ones. Not Durissimo, because I wouldn't have forgotten that. Duressence and Durella. Really, really good condition. David says, one of the best releases of Dior this year. I love Vanilla Diorama. This stuff sucks, says Time to Musk Up. Wow. Okay, so we've got a divisive one here. And do you remember how divisive Tobacco was, with me thinking it wasn't quite so bad and a lot of you out there thinking it was awful? I thought it was extremely boring at first, says Cat's Eye, but then it somehow grew on me a lot hours later when I caught whiffs of it in the breeze. Smells like a perfume for 6-year-olds. Sorry. Ooh, dear. Pretty good smelling 6-year-olds. Okay, so this is a gourmand, no question about it. But I was taken with it because it felt as though Demachy was trying to extend... Somebody way back at the beginning, when they saw this bottle, said, do you get the comparison with Fève Délicieuse? And absolutely. That is the exact perfume that I thought of when I first tried this a few weeks ago, because it felt as though he'd taken some rum-like elements, maybe from things like Spice Blend, which we had a couple of years ago, and the sweetness, but the sort of bittery sweetness of Fève Délicieuse, and put it into an even more gourmand setting with caramelized orange notes, other burnt fruit notes, and a heavy vanilla base, but with that bitterness and sharpness of the tonka bean and almond coming through. And okay, if you don't have time for gourmand scents, you're not going to appreciate this one. But I think there is a way of doing gourmand well without it coming across as cheap, synthetic, with it really making you feel like maybe you've just walked into La Durée or walked into Angelina, so to speak, the shop, because otherwise she might have to. Never mind. And you can holographically see those pastries, the patisserie in front of you. It doesn't have a buttery note, and I'm kind of remarking on the buttery note because it felt like all of the weekend making palmier, with the puff pastries. So I make my own pâte feuilletée, which makes you stink of butter for the whole day, and then when you actually bake the things, you smell even more of butter. So it doesn't go in that direction. But I used a lot of vanilla sugar when I was making them this time, and that smoky, balsamic, sweet darkness of the vanilla is here in Vanilla Diorama as well. I was taken with this. I was really taken with this, and I first smelt it on quite a hot day in the summer, and it worked well. Vanille Havane is a beauty. Oh, that's from Les Indemodables, right? Walking right into Angelina Jolie, says Herb, who would of course be wearing Montgarlin, right? Plaid says, in my opinion, specific to Miss Dior, since it's carrying the Dior name, I suppose it could change with times and trends, as Dior changes with times and trends, but for other perfumes, the scent should not change. Ooh, so what it depends on the perfume's name. Not the biggest fan of gourmand unless it's more spicy and less sweet, says Yura. Time to Musk Up says, I think it's disrespectful for Dior to say this is Madagascar vanilla when they know it's a synthetic vanilla. Well, we could get into that debate, but probably, if they say that it contains such and such a vanilla, it will almost certainly contain a few drops of it. Not very much by way of press material from this one. So it says the Vanilla Diorama fragrance pays homage to the Diorama Gourmand, one of Christian Dior's favorite desserts. Created especially for the couturier by the famous Parisian restaurant Maxime's, there are no pictures or detailed descriptions of this mysterious pastry. Well, that's handy. The Vanilla Diorama fragrance derives its name from this intriguing sweet creation. Warm, round, and opulent, the Vanilla Diorama fragrance evokes the nobleness of vanilla from Madagascar. It's a portrait of the perfect vanilla. Okay, well, yeah. Let's not go that far. Its warm, intense trail with accents of rum and patchouli is contrasted by fresh citrusy notes and accentuated by a denser cocoa note. It's a very, very good gourmand vanilla. To say it's the perfect vanilla, no. The rare and prized vanilla is one of the most precious ingredients of high perfumery, chosen with precision and rigor for its strength and noble quality, colored with woody and ambery tones. Bourbon vanilla from Madagascar is at the heart of François Demachy's creation. A coveted treasure, it is sculpted for the Vanilla Diorama fragrance like a precious gem by the Dior perfumer creator. I thought this was okay. A few more questions. Would I be right to infer from you liking this that you also love Spiritueuse Double Vanille from Guerlain? Do you know, I need to go back to that one. I don't that never made a huge impression on me because I don't think I found it as faceted. Whereas this has at least got a few other things going on there. It's got that orange note, it's got the rum note, it's got the tonka bean note. It isn't just a straight up vanilla. Joy says, first time on a live here, where does this rank on your top 10 vanilla or gourmand fragrance? Oh, I don't know. It wouldn't be in my top 10. It wouldn't be in my top 10. You're on form this evening, Persolaise, says Angela. Really? Am I? I'm like feeling like, oh well, we're nearly done anyway. More haste, more waste, says Audrey. Apparently, LVMH has earmarked Gurgion to take over in a few years' time. Well, that wouldn't be surprising, would it? If they've got him lined up, it wouldn't be surprised. Eric says, "Good luck. I think Spiritueuse Double Vanille is gone. It never really transcended advice straight vanilla extrait to me. Demachy needs to go on a 2-year vacation. Vanilla Diorama versus Dior Addict. Oh gosh, Dior Addict was a lot greener, wasn't it? I'd need to resmell it. I haven't smelt Addict for a while. Okay, I think it is time for us to stop because we have gone on and on and on today. Please, well, first of all, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for being so entertaining and so helpful with your comments. Sincere wishes of peace and lovely smelling love to all of the world. But what I was also going to say is, please send me some ideas for top 10s that you'd like me to do, maybe some ideas for people that you would like me to interview, and also just one-off individual releases that you would like me to feature in the video. Ideas that I've got potentially coming up for the next few weeks, months are something to showcase the 40th anniversary of Annie Goutal. And maybe I shouldn't say any more, actually, because I'm looking over there at a few. Oh, I think we should do something about Maison Crivelli as well. We mentioned them in a video recently. Ooh, and okay, no, I'm not going to say anything now. I'll keep you in suspense because I've seen something that I should read. This is really mean. Okay, pretend this never happened, except I can't take it back because it's live. And the new lutins. Yes, I need to do the new lutins. Okay, be good. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye now.